While it's sunny and warm outside, all the other people are living their normal lives, getting ready for work or relaxing. The girl is spending another day in a dungeon. A man comes to her at the same time, and each time suggests that she stop wasting time and put a brand. It will prove that she has deprived herself of the right to be called a human being. And as soon as this happens, he will be the happiest man in the world. It seems to him that as soon as she is branded, she will be in demand like hotcakes, and this should be better for her. So she will have an owner. Slave brand. Proof that a person is lower than an animal. In status, how many of these were branded and sold in ruble fast? I don't even want to guess. He can say whatever he wants, but even in this state, the girl will not allow him to say such things to her. It's enough for her that he calls her a slave, keeps her in terrible conditions where she doesn't even have a place to sleep, has to lie on the cold floor and pray that she has at least stale bread a day, not even dreaming of water. It's hard to believe, but in her past life, the girl was an empress. She clearly remembers her past life, where she ruled the country. She won her place by defeating countless rivals in a fierce struggle for the throne, a glory that cannot be forgotten. At that time, she met a nice guy. He looked after her, supported her, and helped her in everything to make a good impression. When she took the place of the empress, he said that he had been waiting for this moment for a long time and was happy as if for himself. They started having an ideal life. He only said that he wanted to be with her forever, and if it happened that they got married, he would make her the happiest. Lily heard all this and was sure that this was the person with whom she was destined to live this life. She was already planning a wedding, children, and could no longer imagine life without him. They were one. The first time, as soon as they started dating, it was the happiest period in their lives. People looked at them with bright envy and wished them all the best. No one doubted that these two were made for each other, but who knew how it would all turn out, and that this happiness would not last long. It's very painful for her to remember all this because now she is a slave in Rubelfast at the largest continental market, and the one who whispered words of love to her, the one whom she considered her other half, Clyde. It was just a beautiful shell. It becomes disgusting from the memories of those tender words from his lips, from his attentiveness and sensitivity, from those hugs that once turned out to be so calming and that very well blurred her eyes. The whole truth is that he supported her and was always there to learn how this whole system works from the inside and in the future take this place himself. He had a clear plan, no sincere feelings, only the path to the goal. For him then there were no obstacles and he never had any sense of shame or conscience. She had only to fall asleep when her husband very cleverly took away her throne, and only then did she learn his true identity. Lily still wants to know when he started lying to her and whether he was really ready to do anything for the sake of power. And so, conscious but trapped in a motionless body, she waited for death for 10 long years. It was painful and unbearable. Her mind began to leave her, and then the girl thought that she had finally escaped from this body. But when she opened her eyes, she went back in time 17 years ago and found herself in the body of a slave in Rubelfast. The girl couldn't even imagine that people could be treated so cruelly. She felt like some kind of animal, although even they are treated much more kindly. They put a huge metal ring around her neck, with a chain hanging from it, and they tugged at it every time she looked the wrong way in their direction. These people are eagerly waiting to sell her to someone. She is very disgusting to everyone, and no one wants to keep her here for too long. And they also really want to find a way to brand her, no matter what it takes. Her vision starts to deteriorate because she kneels for too long, but it doesn't scare her. She wants to die and leave this hellish life. She was so tired of suffering that at some point she wanted to take control of her own life and began to act. She waited until another customer passed by her and tried to reach for his clothes to attract attention. The girl immediately apologized for disturbing him and asked him to give her just a couple of seconds of their precious time. Just at that moment, the guy's diamond on his neck started to glow, but then he forgot about it and started listening to her. She started telling him that trading people like her was a sin and that even this guy didn't deserve to live peacefully in this world. She started to accuse everyone around her that they were real animals who ruined the lives of those who had little money. Her behavior became a little inadequate, but everything is done on purpose. She must interest them by any means. This guy's assistant thought that she was crazy and suggested moving on to more adequate slaves. At the very last moment, when that guy agreed, she started laughing and asked why they were so scared. And really, after her words, no one felt guilty. She really isn't afraid to tell them everything she thinks because, in her case, even if nothing works out, she will be punished and perhaps even destroyed. And even that will suit her just fine. He clearly didn't expect anything like that from her. He didn't even listen to his assistant. He stands in the same place and thinks about what to do. Then he asked her what she needed. and in such a way as if she said it, he would do it. At that moment, her eyes lit up and a drop of hope appeared. It's obvious that he expects something like, "Save me, spare me, free me." But no one expects such words from her, no matter how strange it may sound. She replied that the best thing they could do for her and what she dreamed of was to live in this body for as little time as possible, and ideally not to live to see tomorrow. Then she specifically reminded him that some pathetic slave dared to raise her hand to his clothes and asked hintingly if he really didn't want to punish her. Then she suggested hitting her with her sword, and then you can say that she wanted it herself and that will be the end of it. At that moment, it became difficult for her not only to speak, it became difficult to breathe. She had just spent too much energy after a long fast. It starts to get dark in my eyes. I don't have the strength to look him in the eyes and my whole body is leaning towards the floor, as if I'm about to lose consciousness. The girl whispers with all her might, begging him to do what she asked him to do, because it will be the best gift, even if it seems to him that she is out of her mind and does not understand what she is saying. After that moment, she no longer understood what was happening. She didn't really hear or see anything. Her body was too weak, and when she comes to, she feels that there is no longer a cold concrete floor beneath her, but a soft bed, and it is very light around her. She suddenly opens her eyes, realizes that this is the real room she has been dreaming about all this time. But despite the conveniences, she is very confused. After all, who knows? Maybe it is too early to rejoice and everything is not as good as it seems. We need to urgently figure out what this place is, where she is, and who brought her here. It is unlikely that it was the man who dreamed of getting rid of her. One thing she knows for sure, slaves in Rubelfast are not allowed to lie on beds, which means it is some other place. If only there was a sign of how far she is from there now. The only thing she remembered was how she felt bad and could no longer talk to that person. A nice woman knocked politely on the door. She apologized for disturbing her, and the girl had not received such treatment for a very long time. At first it was scary. Suddenly it seemed to her that this was a good person. But then the woman came closer, and at that moment the girl felt very comfortable with her. She introduced herself. Her name is Adela. You can contact her whenever you need something or want something to eat. Then the assistant asked her what her name was, and at that moment she was a little confused because she didn't know. Can she use the name from her past life? Lily? Since in this body she was not even given a name, especially since there may still be a princess with that name living in the Imperial Palace. So she changed this name a little, said that her name is Leia. It is similar to her previous name, just so as not to forget and not get lost when asked such questions. The woman asks how the girl ended up in such a place, and Leia doesn't even know what to tell her because she doesn't really remember herself. Adela is surprised that such a small girl survived in the conditions where she came from, but now she asks not to worry. After all, the master brought her here, so she will not return there again. The first person she thought of was that same hooded nobleman whom she had called names and called a shameless man. Really? He didn't listen to her, but simply moved her to this house. If only I knew why he did it and what she would owe him. And in the meantime, they were just talking about it, and the same person she was thinking about came into the room. He looks great. He smells incredible. Without the hood and such formal clothes, he looks much more attractive. Leia doesn't believe her eyes. She thought that she was just hallucinating from hunger. She felt very ashamed in front of him. She doesn't even know how to react to him, how to communicate with him. And she also doesn't want to thank him in advance. Suddenly, she'll be worse off here than where he took her from. The guy sat down on a chair, started talking to her, and said that she looked better now than she did back then. In Rubelfasta. After this, he gave his name as Slarhan Bentiak and began to hope that here she would not be as bold and arrogant as when they first met. Leia didn't even pay attention to these words. What worries her most is the fact that she knows this name. Moreover, in her past life, he was her fiercest rival. He is the one she fought for her throne with until her death. It is impossible to believe that after what happened between them in the past, or rather, in their past life, she ended up in his hands and now her life depends only on him. Platinum blonde hair that is awe-inspiring and amber eyes so brilliant that they look unreal. He had so many admirers that he could hardly go out on the street. There was not a single case when ladies did not run up to him and ask if he wanted to go for a walk. He is the only son of an imperial noble, Duke Irdel Bentiaka, and he also has impeccable authority. In the meantime, Leia wants to hear from him at least some information about what awaits her next and what she needs to prepare for. She is very irritated by the fact that in order to survive, she will have to gain his favor. She does not even want to think about it. In the end, That's what she started doing from the first second she thought about it. First bowing at his feet, and he obviously didn't expect that. She wants a quiet life so much that she is ready to do anything, even if it is inappropriate or looks ridiculous from the outside. While she bows down to him, she thinks how much this is enough to express her gratitude for what he did for her. After she called him shameless, allowed herself too much of everything, such behavior was very unexpected. The guy expected from her the same thing that he saw then. When she saw that he was surprised, she explained that she had heard that a slave should bow his head low before his master. So that's what she did. To which he calmly asked her name, and it was very good that she was already prepared for this question. So she didn't even get nervous. She said her name was Leia, but if he wanted, he could come up with any other name he liked for her. After that, he started asking why she said she wanted to die. She is the first person he hears that from, and he's also curious to know if her desire has changed since she got here, as if he can still do that to her. While she was thinking about what to say to him, he says that he would not advise her to try to escape, especially since she will definitely be better off here than where she was. He also warned that no matter how far she went, he would still be able to find her in any corner of this world. After that, Slart said that she is alive because he has power, and he can still easily do anything with her, especially if she disappoints him. Leia reacted calmly to this, but when he said that she drank his blood, this caused her to go into a complete stupor. She doesn't understand how this is even possible, how it's connected. And then she thought that, does he really think that she is so naive as to fall for such a scam? He saw how scared she was, and asked if she had already thought about running away, and his words had just upset her. The girl replied that not at all. Purely logically, it doesn't make any sense, and she hasn't been here long enough to draw a conclusion whether she likes it here or not. After he heard the word logic, he got up from his chair and decided to have a serious talk with her. He says that since she doesn't believe him, he feels like he's going to have to show something now. To begin with, he wants to give her a little warning so that she can feel for herself that every word he says is the pure truth. She started to feel a sharp pain. It became difficult to breathe, and this could mean that this is how he can control her well-being or punish her if he doesn't like something. He probably only used a small part of the force he could, but Leia can barely stand it. She has never felt anything like this before. She started to feel like something was about to burst inside her. With every second she started to feel worse. She thought that he would stop now, but the pain continued. At this point, he tells her that she only has one life, so it's better not to test her limits and not get into fights with others. Did he really need to use such a crude method to prove his point? Leia is already crying. She understands that she can't stand it anymore and says that she understands everything. Still, two things about Slart became clear from this incident. She already knew that his mother was from the Sabi tribe. Well, their powers were so shrouded in mystery that no one really knew what they were capable of. The Sabi tribe was persecuted and accused of demonic origin due to their special abilities, which allow them to control the life of anyone who drinks their blood. And in addition, their blood is a powerful healing agent. Meanwhile, he suggests living peacefully. After all, as long as she doesn't try to clean up, there won't be any problems. And she thought that the one who just tried to threaten was speaking. He doesn't have much time to stay with her for long. Slart said in advance that when she is fully recovered, she will start doing the work that he will assign to her. And if she has any questions, she can ask them. Most of all, she would like to know where she is now. And as it turns out, this is the Benthiac estate in the northeastern region of the Faradinus Empire, in the castle of Lord Rhesus. She relaxed a little. After all, this is not the capital. She wants to stay as far away from her ex-husband as possible, and in the meantime, he is ready to listen to one more question. The girl doesn't want to keep him. If he has a full department, then they can talk to him at any other time so that he doesn't rush anywhere. And yet, despite how she treats him, she decided it would be right to thank him. After all, he saved her from hell. He smiled slightly and asked if it wasn't a bit early for gratitude, since she didn't even know him and wasn't sure if her life would go on so calmly. She tells him that she doesn't believe that something like this will happen. She thinks that it will be better here anyway. And Leia also remembers the loyal knights of Benthiac and the servants of Slart. If they followed him so loyally, he can't be such a bad master as he pretends to be. Leia smelled a special smell that she still hasn't forgotten and asked if it was from Mount Avalon by any chance. To which he replied that even if so, then why was she asking about it? And this smell is good for calming the body and mind. But if you inhale it for too long, it can cause severe headaches. She would recommend Mount Fidello instead. The effect is much weaker, but it has virtually no side effects. Slart smiles again. He called her difficult only from his reaction. It seems as if he likes it. Out of the blue, she began to lose consciousness again. She felt dizzy and had a feeling that she was going to lose consciousness right there. She warned him at the last second that she was very ill. He only saw that she was losing her balance. And literally a second later, she was already on the floor. At first, he reacted strangely to this, as if nothing had happened. And then I started thinking why this happened. She had eaten this morning and hadn't really worked hard. His thoughts at this moment, well, she overdid it with a body that hasn't healed yet. She speaks as if she knows everything. Also use refined noble language and recognizes the smell from the first second as soon as it appears despite being a slave. It is very strange. Who is she, this Leia? It is also incomprehensible to him how she can be so weak. And this is after he gave her a healing potion to keep her alive. Meanwhile, the maid comes in. She was worried about the girl all this time and was very upset when she saw that she was unconscious again. She feels like she needs to be left alone now. She'll definitely feel better after sleep, and it would also be nice if when she wakes up there was no one around, so that she was alone and felt comfortable. The woman promised that if needed, she would look after her, so he could do his own thing and not worry about it. He agreed to leave his assistant to look after the girl, and he himself wants to know whether his means will be a medicine for her or still a poison, because they are similar, so that after his blood, she will feel much better. He had already left that room. He was immediately met by another assistant and informed that a personal letter from His Majesty had arrived and that it probably needed to be read immediately. The letter didn't arrive quite suddenly this morning. He's not even sure of its contents, but ignoring its quantity is clearly not worth it. The gentleman's hands were even shaking a little. He wasn't expecting any letter and had no idea what he was about to read there. His Majesty declares his intention to finally hand over the body of the Slaren's father. The assistant wanted to discuss this. Before that, everyone claimed that the body was beyond restoration. The 17th Emperor of Feradinas Noak, Lenier Solin, the elder sibling of the previous Duke of Bentiaka, and a man forged solely out of greed and an inferiority complex. The Emperor lacks competence but is filled with greed. He has been jealous of his more capable younger brother since their days as princes. Almost everyone saw this, but people were afraid to even talk about it. After all, they knew what could happen if the gentleman found out about it. As a result of this, his father had to inspect the disputed territory on direct orders from the emperor, and he was returned as a dead man with only his head preserved, accompanied by their official statement that the rest of the body could not be found. And now, after all this time, the Imperial family finally announces that they have returned the remains, which means that a whole rebellion can begin. The only question was why he was told about this right now. To which the assistant replied that, by the way, there are rumors that something serious happened to the emperor, and maybe this is the whole reason. Apparently, he had been bedridden for some time due to illness. And since then, they say he looks completely empty, like an unfilled vessel. The guy perceives this as nothing more than a pathetic attempt to atone for his guilt before death, in which case the assistant may suggest simply sending someone to check the exact details. Finally, he spoke for that slave. He was less interested than the master in whether she would survive here or not. The Slaren immediately answered that he had no doubt about it, because he who tenaciously clings to life will not perish so easily. He asks to let her use this room until she is fully recovered and to make sure that she gets her meals without missing. The assistant promised that everything would be done and controlled as usual, and then they said goodbye and the gentleman went about his business. And meanwhile, as he walks down the long corridor, he thinks that perhaps this could be just another trap devised by the emperor, and perhaps this is an attempt to finally destroy the last survivor of the Bentikan line. He wonders how long he has to live quietly before the emperor stops this merciless torture. Right now, he just can't figure out his true intentions. Since this reality is so extremely difficult, he has no choice but to place his hopes on even the smallest, most unexpected possibilities. He is sure that there must be some specific reason why the mother's power singled out this child. This was exactly the moment when his diamond shone. He has so many things to do now that it's impossible to fit them all into his head. And then there's Leia, who seems like someone he needs to find out more about. In the end, the guy came to the conclusion that whether she would ultimately be a medicine or a poison for him, only time will tell. Evening has come. Leia has not slept for a long time, but she did not get out of bed after all. While there is an opportunity to lie down, she takes advantage of it. She is now thinking about the fact that she never even dreamed that Slaren would be the one who would save her life. As far as she knows, he should be about 22 years old now. She thought about it very calmly, but then suddenly she jumped up and realized that if this was so, It meant that the emperor would soon announce the succession. Next spring, during the great festival, the emperor will make an announcement about his heir, which would give rise to all the glory and despair. It was at this moment in her life that she most wanted to return. Now it seems to her that she should never have strived for the throne. If she could change something, she would have done it. The girl returned at that very moment in time as retribution for her thirst for the imperial throne. Only she does not understand why, of all the possibilities, she was placed in the body of a slave. And why should she have to endure this damn life over and over again, even though everything got a little better? It's still not the life she dreamed of. And in the meantime, Adela comes. She brought dinner because Leia was sleeping and missed a meal. She doesn't like them, that the girl is still so pale. She asked to let her feed her quickly. After all, you need to eat well so that the body heals as quickly as possible. This is not only her job, but also a personal concern. The woman brought some soup because she decided that solid food would be hard for her to digest, and the soup has no solid particles, but it is still quite filling and tasty. The soup turned out to be so delicious that it was impossible to tear yourself away, although maybe it seemed that way to her because she was not used to food in principle. The woman is very happy that she liked it. She even promised to come up with something tastier next time so that there would definitely be something to look forward to. She already has a couple of ideas, so she will please her as best she can. Leia is now as happy as ever. She eats this soup and feels great, because what could be better than warm food that has just been cooked? The assistant thought she had poured a normal portion, but the girl ate it in a matter of seconds, as if she would refuse more. After those hard pieces of bread that weren't even given every day, such a life seems like a fairy tale, and food even more so. Subsequently, she focused entirely on restoring her physical health, forcing herself to finish all meals, although it was not that difficult. And after each meal, she trained herself by walking around the confines of her room. Just think that she, who once commanded and waved balls, came to call simple walking training. And in the meantime, a whole month has passed since then. She feels much better, and everyone is very happy about it. As usual, a gentleman came to her. He heard that she was diligently concentrating on her recovery and even began to look like a normal person, although he might not have said this. Still, he thinks she could use some weight gain, and he also made sure she was taking her medication regularly, as he asked. To which she asked if he was sure he wasn't giving her too much of such a precious substance. Considering it was blood, she was worried that taking such a quantity could affect his health. And then he said a phrase which, again, could not have been said, that the mouse was expressing concern for the cat, and that was strange. Then he reminded her how she lost her memory because of the toxic smell in Ruble Fast, and asked a very unexpected question, that maybe she was deceiving him, hiding the fact that she is a secret noblewoman. Leia just laughed at this question. She said that he was already going too far with such jokes, as if she was no match for a noblewoman, at least because of her appearance. And she also thought that how could he sincerely believe that, drilling her with such a look, she could get scared, especially since she was once an empress, and it would not be possible to beat her. Suddenly, the gentleman offers to take a walk, asks to follow him, but he didn't even ask whether she wants it or not. It seemed more like an order, although she wasn't so against it, so she kept quiet and followed him. They were already going down to the first floor and she saw a man ahead, about whom, as it turned out, she knew something. His name is Tarek Dinel. He is one of the few sword masters in the Empire and its most loyal knight. Right now, it was as if he was stabbing her with a sword with just one look. She felt it even without looking into his eyes. Receiving medical care within the castle walls, living in a slave room, all this solely by order of the Slaren. It is very unfair that he shows such hostility towards her. It was not she who wanted to appear here, and it was not her decision. And meanwhile, Leia couldn't even imagine that the fact that she had spent so long in captivity would affect the fact that she would freeze on her first walk, although she hadn't even gone outside yet, and she was already shivering. The guy asked how she was feeling. The girl didn't even have time to answer, and he started putting his jacket on her to warm her up. Everyone around saw it, reacted as if they saw something unusual in front of them. But it's all very simple. The master even forbids the maids to touch his things without permission, especially they, to say nothing of someone putting on his special jacket. Leia immediately felt awkward. She doesn't know how to react to this and whether she needs to tell him anything now. Tariq immediately approached the master and said that he would immediately ask the servant to bring his clothes, and the Slarhan asked him why because he had not asked for anything like that and had not even hinted at it. Knowing the character of the Slaren, he probably just chose clothes without thinking about it too much. and someone thought that he did not have time to dress as he usually dresses. While they don't talk, the girl feels a lot of pressure. Too many people are looking at her, she's not used to it. And she also overheard their conversation and said that, as Tariq said, His Highness's clothes are too luxurious for a slave. She is grateful for his care, but is forced to return the jacket. The master asked if it was not a crime for a slave to dare to reject the kindness of his master, which meant that he was not going to take the jacket back and wanted her not to freeze. Tariq laughed and repeated once again that it was too much for a slave like her, and that if someone was jealous and thought that she deserved his attention, it would reflect on his reputation. These were very ugly words. Slart immediately said that if he decided something, then it should be so. And also, he did not ask for advice and demands to immediately apologize to the girl, because here she is no longer a slave. In the end, to end the dispute faster, the assistant came and brought another jacket so that everyone would be happy. After this, the gentleman asked them not to catch up with him anymore, and asked Leia not to lag behind him, because the walk was not over yet. The girl thought he was cold and distant, but in fact he turned out to be unexpectedly nice, despite the fact that he didn't owe her anything like that. Meanwhile, they came to the training ground of the Knights of Benthiac, and for some reason that Tariq was with them. It's good that he at least stopped talking and just walked silently. As expected from the residents of the ducal house, it is well maintained. It made her want to grab the sword and swing it, and she also wondered how many years had passed since she last felt its weight in her hand. The gentleman says that from tomorrow on she will do her physical training here because everything she does in the room is not serious. It is immediately obvious that Tariq is very unhappy with this. He asks if it is not dangerous to use the knight's training ground for a person who has never held a sword in his hands, to which he replied that she would come here right after the knights finish their training, so everything should be fine. Leia thought that in any case, even if she wanted to run away, even if she made a deal with the master, she still needed to be in good shape. And in the meantime, in this beautiful house, 3 people gathered to have breakfast, and one of them, the very same Cleed, who in his past life took the throne from Leia. The woman tells him that today everyone praised him so much that she is very proud of him and considers him to be both the most talented and handsome man in the entire empire. The boy hears such words from his parents so often that he has already gotten used to it and almost does not react. Sometimes it even seems to him that they say this on purpose to boost his self-esteem, and perhaps they are not even half sincere. There is one reason why he is sometimes cold towards them. He feels it is unfair that even though they praise him, the two still plan to pass the title to their eldest son, even though other noble families now choose their heirs based on merit, and his parents cling to the tradition that the title should go to the first child of the family. It's very simple. They just don't want to give up their power. And in the meantime, the eldest son, whom Cleed had just thought about, approached them. The guy apologized for being late. He explained that he went to meet the young heir of the Count of Ruvel. He asked for advice on the family emerald business. His parents were very happy to see him, and they also praised him for the fact that he was already building connections, which was very useful. Clyd hates his brother so much that he is ready to do anything to take the title from him, and if necessary, he will even get rid of his brother if he gets in his way, because he believes that he deserves it much more than he does. And in the meantime, the girl went out for a run. She runs and spills out all her bad thoughts, remembers her husband from her past life, and thinks that if she sees him while in this body, she will happily hit him in the face. He still won't understand who it is. But once she really believed and thought that she loved him, he gave her his ideas and she carried out his plans. Then they were the perfect team, and she did not notice a lot of things. But then he gave her poisoned food and left her in a vegetable state, which she will never forgive him for. She practically made him an emperor. He should have shown at least a little mercy and let her die without this suffering. When asked if it was okay to leave your wife a vegetable for 10 years, anyone would have answered no. But him, Leia decided that this time she would not let him get his way. Right now, being a slave, there was nothing scary for her anymore. She had been through a lot and now she had nothing to lose. She won't let this man seduce another princess and become emperor. The one who is most suitable to rule is probably Slart. He was considered the perfect candidate for the post of emperor. Maybe that's why the gods sent her here to put him on the throne. Maybe if she does this and sees it through to the end, then only then can she be free. This path will not be easy, but there is no other choice. The question arises, how will she manage to convince this stubborn man to seriously follow her advice? And how can someone like her give advice to someone? And then she hears some question, wait, am I really going to be with him? I need to check one more time. There were two maids standing nearby. They were looking into a cup where tea leaves remained. One thought that they were telling the truth, and the other was sure that they were lying, and this method was unreliable. They started discussing that the tea leaves were standing straight, meaning that the prayers had reached Elrin, and that 3 tea leaves were pointing in the same direction, meaning that the girl had 3 more chances. Leah didn't understand anything from these words, but she became interested in listening to them a little more. And suddenly they said the name Lucas. Probably this is how they want to know if one of them will have a happy future with him. Without thinking, the girl approached them, asked what they were doing, and the maids didn't even say a word. They just started leaving. It was a bit unpleasant. After all, she approached them to ask just one question, and if they didn't want to tell something, they could have said so directly. They didn't notice how they left that cup on the bench looking at it, Leah thought. Maybe she should also check somehow if this method works. A couple of minutes later, she approached the gentleman, said that she had a plan, and was not even shy about asking if he could spare some time for it. The guy asks why he should suddenly believe in her charlatan tricks, and she answers that her fortune-telling is actually quite accurate, although in fact she has never done it. The main thing is to convince him, and everything else will work out by itself. At least she wants to hope so. They hadn't even started doing it before she started promising that she would bring him luck. The main thing was that he trusted her unconditionally and had no doubt that everything would work out. He didn't think long, quickly agreed. He only asked not to disappoint him after all. He just had some free time and he was interested in checking how it works. Leah was very happy. She of course knew that she would succeed, but she didn't think that it would be so easy. So they came to an agreement that she would make him emperor, and in return he would give her freedom. The farewell to the deceased father of Slarin, Erdelbenthiak, took place today. It is a very long-awaited day, but at the same time, incredibly sad. At first they couldn't find the remains below the neck, but the body was returned perfectly preserved, as if everything had been in order from the beginning. The girl still does not understand and probably will never understand how it is possible to destroy someone so easily because of ordinary envy. To die just because you were more outstanding than someone, it is very offensive. The council says this: Elrin, creator of the universe and everything in it. Here, this exhausted and tired soul returns to your arms. He always took care of those under his command and loved his family. Always supported those who needed it and was a wonderful person. Unlike the royals, he still seems to have a lot of support from the people of his lands. It's hard to achieve, but he did it. If the girl only knew that this would happen, she would have come to say goodbye in her past life. But already as it is, then the emperor must have lied that Benthiak wanted a quiet farewell. If she had known that they would have such a formal part, she would not only have expressed her condolences. At the end, the priest asked everyone to offer their farewell prayers for Erdelbenthiak, who was setting out on his final journey. At that moment, a heavy downpour began. Not only people, but also nature were crying for the deceased. This man should have lived much longer, but unfortunately, such injustices happen, sir. Everyone around doesn't realize how hard it is for his son to be near this object. He's holding back very much, but if he were here himself, he would have cried a long time ago, and would tell him everything that he didn't have time to say during his life. These are too personal moments, so now he can't do it. Leah thought that she was even afraid to guess what Slarin was thinking about now, and also probably the Imperial family would soon call him back. It is almost time for the Emperor to hint at what he will announce at the Great Banquet. The moment when the Emperor reveals his sterility marks the beginning of his plot to destroy his own children and relatives. The girl knows one thing for sure. She will not let history go the same way. Everything must change, and she will do everything possible and impossible for this. This time, she will become his goddess of victory. Meanwhile, in the Jade Palace where the Empress's children live, this is the place where you want to stay forever. The most beautiful flower in the country, showered with compliments for her refined beauty. Since childhood, she always enjoyed showing herself off and reveling in luxury. Elor del Solan, queen of high society. About 6 months ago, rumors began to spread that Elor had suddenly changed. She began to attend events very rarely. She comes there only out of politeness, but as soon as she greets everyone, she leaves immediately, and she also tries to do it unnoticed. Her servants think that something is going on in her life. That is why she has withdrawn herself from society. Although before she could not sit for a day without communicating with someone. She used to love parties, but now she doesn't seem like herself. The assistants have been trying to figure out what happened to her, but they still haven't been able to figure it out. Apparently, something serious happened. At some point, the lady began to show great interest in the Imperial genealogical tree. She asked her assistant many times if she had ever heard the name Lily. The maid replied that she had never met anyone with that name, but if it was something important, she could ask her colleagues about it. The girl replied that it was not necessary. Everything was fine, and she also looked at me with a strange look, as if someone else had entered her. Meanwhile, she is riding somewhere in her carriage, as usual, dissatisfied with something and thinking about how it turned out. Reciting poetry with old people is really tiring. She was already tired of it and did not notice how she began to talk to herself. And then she realized that it was better than her original future, which was full of regrets. It turns out that the whole point is that in order to change her life, she was forced to sell her soul to dark paper and turn back time 18 years to get to a world where lilies do not exist. Because of this, if she fails, her soul will be at the mercy of this demon. But in any case, it doesn't matter. Only the present is important. This time, since she already knows the future, she can lay claim to the throne and is sure that Clid will also be her husband. Every second she sees him in front of her, she admires him, this famous opera singer, of incredible beauty. And also, she dreams of making him a man who will take the throne with her. She thinks that he deserves it, and when she does it, he will be grateful to her for the rest of his life. But how wrong she is. She only now realized that she should have claimed him from the very beginning and decided that this time she would definitely not let him go. From now on, she needs to gather as many people as possible. This time it won't be Lily, but she will claim the rights to the Cleda, and of course the throne itself. And meanwhile, at the farewell to the guy's father, the situation is not pleasant. The girl did not expect anything else, but the guy behaves somehow not as usual. Apparently, he is overwhelmed with emotions. He wants to be alone. And also, the whole time they have been here, he has not said a single word. He is silent, and this is normal. The girl also wanted to leave, but she heard a strange rustling behind the bushes right behind her, as if someone was watching them there. All sorts of thoughts came into her head. She carefully thought about turning around, but then changed her mind. What if it was a mistake? It would be better to pretend as if she hadn't heard anything, and check whether the Imperial family could have sent a villain in some other way. Suddenly, there is someone sitting in the bushes who wants to destroy someone present. In the end, she thought of entering the forest from the side. She is not embarrassed that it might be dangerous there, that it is pouring rain outside and the weather is like this, that there are too few people around and if something happens, no one will even hear her because everyone will be in their houses. Leia has no doubt that she will notice someone. She just didn't think about what she would do if this person saw her too. He would hardly like that someone found him. She carefully creeps up to those very bushes. She has one last chance to change her mind, but she goes straight ahead and is not afraid of anything. Since the girl was already here, she boldly looked into these bushes. Her hands were already shaking, but there was an ordinary cat there. She just moves around a lot because she wants to lie down comfortably. Only she is black, and there are very few of those around. Leia thought, why not make friends with her? Or at least take her in her arms. It wasn't for nothing that she came here. Judging by the fact that the cat approached the person without any problems, it must have an owner who knows how it ended up here and where to take it. Leia had just thought about it when a man came up to her and started to treat her rudely, as if she had entered his territory and had no right to do so. The guy asked what she was doing there, but Leia is not a fearful person. She explained to him that she just heard a rustle and checked who was in the bushes, and then saw a cat. And also, the little animal looked as if it was very cold, and so she decided to warm it up. It is possible that it was hiding from the rain here, and it certainly won't make things worse for it. Although Leia responded very politely to his first rudeness and tried not to pay attention to it. But he is already going too far and starting to call her Raminia. It seems to him that she has no right to walk around on her own, and is already hinting that now she will get it for it. Leia started to think about what she should do now. She wouldn't just take the blow and faint, leaving the cat behind. He clearly doesn't like that the Duke showed her leniency, and he also says that she is still pathetic and doesn't deserve the slightest respect. Unexpectedly for both of them, a man approached them and asked what was going on here, and after a couple of seconds they realized who it was. Only a Duke could speak in such a commanding tone. He heard how this guy was talking to her, and probably it will not be her who will receive it now, but someone else. The assistant began to tell that the slave had run away without permission, and that he just wanted to explain to her that this is not how it is done, and that she always had to be under supervision so that she wouldn't run away, so he just couldn't pass her by. And she said that she simply noticed a noise in the bushes, came here, saw a kitten, and wanted to warm him up so that he wouldn't freeze in the cold. And she also told him a phrase that immediately seemed too significant to him, namely, that it seemed that the cat had also come to honor the memory of his father. The girl is sure that the deceased duke would not want this little animal to freeze in the rain either. And judging by how well he follows people and isn't afraid of her, maybe he was someone's pet. He tells her that no one in Benthiac keeps black cats. They believe that black cats bring bad luck just because they have black fur, so that the girl would not be too upset. He allowed her to take this kitten to her, raise him. But if something happens because of him, it will be on her conscience. She thought that he would at least have a serious conversation with her, that she came to this forest without permission, but everything went very calmly. Moreover, he is not even against this kitten settling in his house, just in case. Suddenly she misunderstood him. She decided to ask again. Could she really take him with her and give him a place in her room? He allowed her to do this only on one condition. She would have to feed him at her own expense, and this would not be one of the duties of his servants. Only Leia would have to look after the kitten, and she should not rely on anyone else. The girl promised that she would cope, and the guy grabbed his head and could not remember the Duke being so gentle. He was not so kind even towards him. In the end, they all quickly returned back. Leia is the happiest of them all. After all, she is not only a pet, but also a friend. And the only problem is that this kitten may have an owner, and maybe he will look for him and be very worried. She is only reassured by the fact that she did the best thing anyway. Otherwise, the kitten would have definitely frozen, and his owner would not have even had time to find him. The kitten has already taken a shower. Leia is drying him with towels and cannot get enough of this cute creature. It was time to think of a name for him. Nox, an old word for night, and it suited his golden eyes perfectly. After that, she thought he might be very hungry and offered him a piece of bread. She doesn't yet know what cats usually eat, what they like, and especially what they can't eat. Leia chose the safest product and thought that for now, she could get by with this. The kitten was so hungry that he started eating the bread very quickly, so she asked him to be slower so that he wouldn't get a stomachache later. He seems so cute to her that it is impossible to tear yourself away from him. She constantly wants to pet him and be only with him. In the past, Clid would not have allowed her to have a cat because cat hair might bother Her Majesty, although maybe he knew that she would not be able to keep one for long. Now that she starts thinking about it again, she starts getting angry, and to help herself somehow, she looks at the kitten again and calms down. After he had already eaten and did not want to eat anymore, she offered him a drink of water and he agreed. And in the meantime, although it is already time to go to bed to rest, the gentleman's office, as usual, is full of work moments that do not let him go. The assistant asks if there are any other tasks for him, to which the Slarhan replied that he will use Leia as his pastel to teach her a few things. The assistant, without thinking, again called her a slave and asked if the master really intended to do this. As if even the sons of noble families would consider it an honor to be the Duke's messenger. The guy replied that he wouldn't call it a big job. And besides, Leia seemed better to him than those arrogant people. And he also said that you never know which of them might turn out to be a spy. And now this needs to be taken very seriously. The assistant apologized for not understanding his deep intentions. The gentleman replied that everything was fine and asked to prepare the lay in the near future. After that, the guy was left alone. He went to the window and started thinking about something, but definitely not about resting. He has so much work that if he had the strength, he would have to stay here the whole night and so on for a whole week. Lately, he has been so thoughtful that even his assistants have noticed that something is bothering him. And very much so. In fact, he is only bothered by the fact that during the funeral he only wanted to break into the Imperial palace. The one who should lie in his father's place is not his father at all. The emperor who deserves it should be there. And yet because of this very emperor, he has no family left. And now the guy doesn't know what's the point of keeping his mouth shut all the time. He has no other choice. He will have to start a rebellion and take revenge properly. The guy will never forgive himself if he doesn't at least try to do this, and for now, while he has the desire, he needs to use it. Benthiac, the only inheritance his father left him. The boy remembers very well the situation when they were standing on the balcony, watching the sunset, and his father asked him to look carefully at all this beauty. He promised that one day this land would remain the land of his son, and also asked to never forget that the future of the local residents would lie on his shoulders. So it is important to think about even the lowest servants before your own well-being. He asked to imprint virtues into his bones and to scatter petty grievances to the wind so that his conscience would always be clear. Finally, he said one more thing, that if the boy ever wants to take revenge on someone, he needs to do it perfectly. Until the right moment arrives, you will have to endure, gritting your teeth because the weight they carry requires caution. He is so pleased to remember that period in his life, because then he could not even imagine that one day would come when his father would no longer be there and everything would fall on his shoulders. And he is also very glad that he started doing good deeds, started to act according to his conscience. It seems to him that if his father saw this, he would be proud of him. And it also seems to him that she is hiding something from him. He suspects that she was a noblewoman, and he himself does not know why and where he got such a feeling. He imagines that if this is true, how hard it was for her from the highest status to find out what the very bottom is, the life of a slave, and also, even though he doesn't think about it all, he still feels that when he sees this child, it's as if he's seeing some old acquaintance in front of him, whom he can't remember at all. It's interesting to imagine what will happen when he realizes that she was there, and that in fact, it didn't seem to him at all that he knew her. This is another very important matter that he will definitely complete. If of course she allows him to do it after all, if he finds out the truth, it can affect her future and safety. As usual, he can't stay alone for long. Someone always comes to him, and this time the butler came. He apologized for coming late and said that he wanted to ask just one question. He wondered if it was true that the master allowed the young slave to raise a cat. It felt like if someone else called her a slave, he wouldn't be able to hold back and would punish someone for it, because now she was here as an ordinary person and not a slave at all. She didn't owe anything to anyone here, and calling her that was very wrong. The assistant always remembered the rules that animals cannot be kept in the castle, and the gentleman calmly replied that he did not see any problem with this. He personally had not seen the kitten and was sure that he had not either. And if the girl is busy with something and she likes it, then this is not bad at all. At this moment, the man decided to tell him something else. He had been hearing out loud for a long time that the slave had become his lover, or rather, a girl with whom he was hiding his relationship, including from the servants. In that case, the gentleman asked to make a list of everyone who talks about this. A little later, he will definitely arrange a meeting on this matter so that no one else would have the desire to discuss his personal life. Before leaving, the man began to beg the master for his own good to move the slave to the closet because he believed that was where she belonged. The guy looked at him with such a look, after which the man immediately understood that he had said something unnecessary, and it would have been better if he had kept quiet, or better yet, not come in at all. The Slaran warned that if he heard anything else related to the girl, especially something that insulted her, this person would be severely punished. He will not allow anyone to think that his decision can be argued or hinted at. If he allowed her to live here, then it must be so. And they are all servants. And if they do not understand this, then they must remember that today, their status is lower than hers, and they have no right to call her a slave. Rather, she can address them like that. This phrase immediately angered the assistant, but he still did not understand that he was wrong and began to be indignant. How could the gentleman say such a thing? The guy asked him what he was wrong about. Firstly, he made the girl a free person. She doesn't owe anyone anything. She calmly goes about her business, enjoys life. And secondly, all the servants of this house are obliged to serve even her, and on their part consider her lower in status, because this is not at all the case. The man promised to take full responsibility so that all these rumors would disappear and so that no one would call Leia anything offensive again. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, it has been restless since the morning. Everyone is gossiping, wanting to see the Emperor and hear at least some confirmation of all these rumors. One of the concubines says that apparently something is wrong with the Emperor's health. Otherwise, why would he gather the Empress and concubines in one place? This has never happened before. The second concubine says she saw him very angry, and he is like that every time someone brings up the topic of the heir. The Empress is also standing next to them and thinks that it looks like this time he intends to announce his heir. After all, it's already time and he still hasn't done it. In general, everyone has different guesses, but literally in a couple of minutes, everything will fall into place. And in the meantime, when the Emperor had already sat on his throne, everyone greeted him, but he, as usual, did not show a drop of kindness. He was still as formidable and cold, although in front of him were the girls whom he should love. And finally, he said that he called them because there was something he wanted to tell each of them in advance, and it was very important. While everyone is waiting for what he will say, His Majesty asked the assistant of the Aslan to provide the results of his diagnostics, which he has been doing recently. To which the guy replied that as much as he would like to say this, he was forced to tell you something with great regret. Despite the fact that each of these girls has a child from the Emperor, the study showed that this is impossible, because His Majesty cannot have children. Therefore, they all deceived him, and these children are not from him. The girls were already thinking that one of the heirs would be named today, but it turns out that he doesn't have an heir and never has had one, and never will. The emperor rose from his throne and said that there was not a drop of his blood in the princes and princesses. In fact, his nephews were more suitable candidates for the throne than those children he had mistakenly considered his own. And then he thought, so that no one would be offended and everything would be more or less fair, it would be possible to include the imperial children as well as his nephews among the contenders for the throne. He would give them a task, evaluate their successes, and the most outstanding of them would be seated on the throne as the next ruler. After that, he asked not to argue and just obey. He does not plan to punish either the girls or their children. Let fate or justice itself decide who is worthy of replacing him in the future. But these three are not happy that His Imperial Majesty wants their children to fight and destroy each other. It seems to them that this is wrong and very cruel, because there must be some other way for everyone to remain alive. One of them says that if this method of competition is used to choose an heir, there is a chance that some nephew will eventually inherit the throne, and he may even support one of them and encourage them to destroy their mistresses in exchange for his support. The second girl says that by hiding his own infertility and eliminating the illegitimate descendants of the imperial family, he may even earn praise for the fact that ability is above bloodline. The emperor has nothing to lose in such a situation. They discuss all this without his presence, and in the meantime, the empress suggests approaching this matter much more simply. As His Majesty stated, the succession competition is just the beginning. Perhaps one of their own children could emerge victorious. However, she proposes to agree to unite whenever a situation arises that disadvantages only the imperial children. And in the meantime, the assistant of the Slaren allowed himself to read the letter, which only the master himself can open. It says, "My dear Slaren, I have received news that you have conducted your father's funeral magnificently. Despite the fact that you are still young, you do not show any shortcomings as the new head of the Benthiac, which brings me, your uncle, great joy. Why don't we meet during the great festival and offer prayers for the lost Erdoy together? You are invited to this festival." Then he handed this letter to his master and advised him to be extremely careful, because maybe they should travel in different carriages to divert attention. The master replied that the defensive forces of the estate should not be reduced, so he ordered the formation of a small elite detachment of highly qualified people. It seems to him that the family of knights will be more than enough, and also remembered that it is necessary to add one service to this detachment and take the lay without fail. The assistant remembers their previous conversation very well, so he restrained himself but still asked why they needed the girl there and hinted that she might be superfluous. The Slaren explained that he needed someone who could carry out orders, to which the assistant replied that he probably expressed himself incorrectly. He wanted to ask why the master was showing such concern towards a child to whom he owed nothing. The guy reacted as if it wasn't true at all, or he didn't show any concern. He remained silent, as if hinting that he didn't quite understand the question. The assistant really doesn't understand his intention to use her as a messenger. But taking her with him all the way to the capital, it would be more practical to take another servant with him who can ride a horse. The gentleman replied that it was not just that he wanted to take her with him, but rather that the mother's power resonated with this child. He was hinting at his decoration, which sometimes shines with her. He wonders if other people don't feel this and why only he notices it and no one else. He wants to know so much about her, for example, whether she has a strangely powerful presence. The assistant doesn't understand anything. He only knows one thing, that the girl doesn't deserve only the attention and privileges that she is given. But this time he was afraid to say it. He just hinted that he needed to be careful with her and not make her life like a fairy tale, because no one yet knows how and what it will turn out to be. To which the gentleman asked if the guy really believed that someone could keep such eyes after surviving the horrors of Rubelfast. And she looked as if she knew that she would not stay there for long and that someone would come for her. And he also said that when he saw her for the first time, from the first second she promised that she would bring him luck. For the assistant, it sounds like some kind of fairy tales, but he tries to believe him. The gentleman is sure that even if she dared to deceive him and pretends to be special, he still has nothing to lose. And in any case, if something happens, he can always return her there or punish her. Moreover, when he communicates with her, he really feels something, so he is sure that he freed her for a reason and that she will still bring him some benefit. Realizing that the master could not be persuaded, the assistant promised, starting from today, to try to teach the child horse riding. And if it turns out that she does not know how to ride, the knights can take turns riding next to her to control everything, and everything will be safe. At that moment, the guy thought, why not sit her down with him? and the assistant grimaced as if he no longer knew where he got such ideas from and why he was clinging to her so much. He would very much like to tell him to keep his dignity and honor, but he promised not to say anything bad about them and in the end remained silent. And in the meantime, the girl had already come to class. She had no choice, but at first she still asked why she needed to study this, to which he answered that during the great festival next year, she would accompany his lordship as his servant, and this decision was no longer subject to discussion. She has to accept that she will have to do it and do everything that is required without question, and he also has no desire to tell her all the details, so he will just tell her what needs to be done, and that's it. First of all, to begin with, she definitely needs to get to know the horse, get used to it, and so that it is mutual. If she shows fear, which should not be done, the horse will immediately feel it. And to avoid this, you need to feel confident and not hesitate. As she was advised, she immediately began to greet the horse. It seemed to her that there would be no problems with this. After all, she gets along well with animals and they love her very much. Only now he remembered that it wouldn't hurt to ask if she had ever ridden a horse. The girl answered that she had. But in fact, she not only knew how, horse riding was one of her favorite hobbies, so she would be able to surprise him. If, of course, she hadn't forgotten anything yet. How to do it. He didn't even have to explain anything. She got her bearings very quickly, was able to climb onto the horse, and she did it even faster than he did, and he pretended that it was a coincidence that didn't mean anything. There is some unpleasant energy between them, but Leia tries not to concentrate on it. After all, there is so much beauty around, she feels the horse very well. All that remains is not to notice someone extra. The girl listens to all these sounds, to the smell, to the atmosphere. She likes it so much that she would not even leave here and would ride all day long. She dreams of riding a horse across an open field every morning, but it is unlikely that anyone will allow her to do this. And if this happens, it will only be with this person who obviously does not like her. She feels it very well. She absolutely loves feeling the cool wind. It fills her with energy, at the same time with calmness and harmony. Most likely, if she wanted to run away somewhere far away now and then returned after some time, she would definitely be punished. Or they would think that she wanted to run away in this way. Meanwhile, that person asks her to get off the horse and says that that's enough for today. And he also has a very serious conversation with her. The guy was watching her closely all this time and noticed that he didn't have to tell her anything. She has all these skills from somewhere, and she feels more confident than he does. It's very noticeable. He asked her directly where she had acquired all these skills, to which the girl replied that she was not sure that everything was as he said. But she said this only so that he would not find out the truth and believe that it was an accident or an ability that she was born with. She also started making excuses that when she was a slave, the owner did everything to make her health worse, including her memory, so she can't answer this question. Of course, it's not true, and she just made it up. In the end, he thought that in that case, perhaps she should do some other things, or better yet, all at once. The lessons of the Tariq did not end there. A whole week passed and now he comes to her to ask if she has done everything that he asked her to do last week. To which she answered with a smile that during this time she had memorized the genealogy of only the Imperial family and had already begun to memorize the genealogies of the secondary noble houses. He doesn't understand how this is possible, how she could remember so much. And she's not particularly tired, as he sees. In that case, he asked her to take a piece of paper and rewrite the genealogical table from memory. If she makes a mistake, she will face the consequences. The Imperial lineage is something that everyone from the Imperial family must constantly keep in mind. But this task seemed too easy to her. She doesn't even try hard. She did it so quickly that he didn't even have time to come up with her next task. The guy thinks that all this is somehow strange. Few ordinary people can read or write, and her handwriting is not just good. It even resembles noble. He carefully studied everything she gave him, said that everything was correct, but he didn't understand where a certain name came from. He doesn't understand who Lily Seared Solon is, and she apparently did it by mistake. Instinctively, the main thing is that it doesn't turn against her. He began to say that as far as he knew, moreover, he was completely sure that Her Highness the Imperial concubine Diana had given birth only to His Highness the Second Prince, Labena, Elcro Solon, and Her Highness the Fourth Princess, Lariette Maria Solon. There was no person in the Empire named Lily Seared Solon. It turns out that such a person really does not exist, and Lily disappeared from this world as soon as she got into this body. Leia thought that such a girl actually existed, but now it became a real discovery for her. She had a lot of thoughts. The girl is completely confused because before this she couldn't even think that Lily doesn't exist. She even wanted to see her from the outside, but now she knows that it's impossible. At first the girl was very worried about this, trying to understand how this could happen. But then she realized that if something can't be changed, there is no point in thinking about it for a long time. You need to concentrate on reality and not waste time. She returned to this matter several times, sorted something out, and then she got so tired of it that she finally wanted to get distracted. The kitten immediately ran up to her, as if he felt that right now it would be better for him to be next to her, and he did the right thing. She apologized to him for disappearing for the whole day, not paying as much attention to him as before, and explained that it was very important, although he probably doesn't understand her. He started smiling, purring, which means that everything is fine, and he will gladly accept her attention right now. The girl tells him how good it is that she has him. Otherwise, she would be very bored and sad here alone. She never thought before that pets are so great. They improve your mood and really help you feel much calmer. The next day has already arrived. She has her next classes. Naturally, few people want to waste their time on this, but an order is an order. No one can ignore it. Today, she has a different assistant. He is a much nicer person than the one she had last time, and she is very happy about it. He said that he had learned how well she was doing with horse riding, and he would really like to see it sometime soon. He even tries to talk to her, tries to get to know her better, and for some reason Leia thinks that this is all not sincere. She got the impression that it is better not to communicate with anyone here. You never know with what intention they are talking to her. She won't even be surprised if any word she says is used against her, so she holds back and tries not to let anyone get too close to her. As soon as she appears on the street, there are strange looks all around, which she feels even when her back is to these people. They literally drill into her with their gaze. It's a very unpleasant feeling, but she tries to abstract herself and think only about what is necessary. Leia still didn't know what their lesson was today, what she would have to do. She never thought she would think about it, but with her previous assistant it was easier. At least she knew in advance what to prepare for and could mentally prepare herself. He says that everything will be a surprise. He came up with something interesting, although she very much doubts it. Even though this person is quite smiling, she still feels uncomfortable. Or maybe it's just because she has rarely been talked to like this. Maybe he really has nothing against her, but it's too unusual for her, and it seems like there might be some kind of catch to it. In any case, if you look at how she met him, she was more distrustful of him than she is now, which means that he has already won her over a little, although she doesn't notice it. Leia was even surprised that among such unpleasant servants as all the others, there could be such an adequate guy who was more or less pleasant to be around. Literally half an hour, and she already felt absolutely comfortable with him, and again remembered that they hadn't even started the lesson, and he seemed to have forgotten about it. The guy just walks around the garden around the entire palace grounds, and she waits for him to tell her what she needs to do, although she doesn't mind spending time on a walk either. This only leaves less time for the lesson itself, and this makes her very happy. You can consider this day as a day off. And in the meantime, for some reason, they started saying goodbye. He actually gave her a small gift, probably so that she would have a good impression of him. Meanwhile, a lot of people and horses have already gathered in the backyard, which means that the gentleman is going somewhere. The guy warned that he was leaving for at least half a day and asked to closely monitor the security of the castle during his absence. Even appointed a person who would temporarily replace him. Everyone said that everything would be fine. He doesn't have to worry. He can go about his business. There really are people here to control everything that is needed. Naturally, as he wanted, he made sure that Leia went with them. He made sure that she learned to ride a horse. They told him that she could go and he was very happy about it. Then he counted all the people he wanted to see with him, asked again if everything was prepared, and after that he was ready to set off on the road. The gentleman wished them good luck, asked no one to even think about the fact that something could go wrong. After all, they wanted to return with good news, and that's how it should be. Everyone moved so quickly that it was immediately obvious that everyone was full of energy. They didn't want to disappoint the gentleman, and everyone also really liked it. When at the end of the business trip he said that everyone was great, and he was very pleased with them. The guy tries to control Leia. After all, he is not sure that she feels good on the horse, but he must roll. That in fact everything is exactly the opposite. She might be able to cope better than some of them, and in the meantime, she had already brought food for him, because she thought that he might not have enough strength or time to have dinner. And after such heavy physical and mental stress, this is very important. He tells her that he didn't ask for anything like that and she wasn't obligated to worry about it. But the girl smiled and replied that it was just her wish, and she didn't expect anything in return. Since she was already here, he wanted to discuss something. He thought that there would be a lot of problems during the trip, but she behaved so calmly and confidently that, for a moment, he even forgot that she was anywhere nearby. He wonders why she suddenly became so obedient. And what was the point of her learning to ride horses so well if she was required to at least not be afraid, let alone ride calmly at the same level as everyone else? She tells him that she was just in a calm mood and she didn't expect this from herself, just like he didn't. And it is very pleasant that the gentleman does not notice her efforts, but she continues to do it as if there is nothing wrong with it. She enjoyed surprising him so much that she wanted to do something else that he would definitely not expect from her. After that, she asked him when they would return back, and he said that he himself had not thought about it yet. He also did not want to stay here for long, but until the job was done, it was too early to think about the way home. At one point, she tells him that she has a strong feeling that there will be a major announcement from His Majesty the Emperor at this banquet. The gentleman says that he does not want to discuss it. His head is now too full of other problems that he cannot even have a normal conversation on any other topic. And he also really wants to rest, but at the same time, his body seems to resist and does not allow him to do this, although it is already time. She understands him very well in this. She even asked if he needed any advice. She has a couple of tricks on how to make him suddenly want to sleep. He started making excuses that nothing would help him, that he would fall asleep anyway, just not right away, and she didn't even listen to him. Just in case, I said that if he changes his mind, chamomile tea and calm breathing while lying on the bed, in complete silence and darkness, help a lot. Ideally, to completely get rid of all extraneous thoughts, which very often prevent you from falling asleep right away. Then I told him that he doesn't have to thank me, and he only laughed a little in response, and said that he already knows about these methods, but they don't work on him. He had long ago thought about buying himself some kind of sleep aid, but in the end, he didn't risk it because he knows that it has a bad effect on his health. And then she notices that they have already been talking for half an hour, and during this time, he could have tried to fall asleep. So she says that it is probably better to say goodbye and not waste precious time before bed. In the end, she remembered something else, namely that if a person is in a well-lit room at night, the body does not understand that night has come and slows down the process so that the person is ready to rest. And in the meantime, the very day of the big banquet that everyone had been waiting for so long had arrived. As soon as the guests had gathered, His Majesty did not waste time. He immediately said that he wanted to inform everyone about his new decision. That among the principals, the princesses, and his nephews, he would choose the most capable man to make him the next emperor. Most people didn't know that there would be such important news today. They are completely confused because they were not prepared for it. And it will be increased in the meantime, he says with a smile, that over the next 3 years, the merits and demerits of each candidate will be assessed differently. And at the Winter Survival Festival in 2 years, whoever gets the most points will become the emperor. Also, the points will be fairly assessed by a committee for evaluating candidates, consisting of the emperor himself, the Senate, and representatives of the council. The emperor advises everyone to try to win the favor of the nobility, because this is also of great importance and should not be neglected. The man understands perfectly well that everyone here whom he just mentioned is aiming for the throne, so he can only wish them luck, strength, and patience. Then he suddenly started spinning around and laughed as if there was some kind of catch in his words. And in the meantime, this girl has no doubt that other people cannot hope for the throne, because she will take it anyway. For the sake of happiness with her husband, she is ready to do anything, even if she has to risk her reputation or even her life. She is a very risky person, basically. Like him, their views are very similar. They are seething with the thirst to get what they want, and there is not a drop of doubt that it will be so. At some point, the guy started to look very closely at everyone around him. It is important for him to understand who is the same as him. He does not tolerate competition and wants to prove that he is the strongest. Then he noticed a girl who was also looking at him. Their eyes met, and at that moment, her heart started beating very hard. The girl understands that he may not even think that they can be together, but she wants it, and that's enough. Now he perceives her as just a beautiful girl that he noticed, but only she knows where this is all heading. As usual, various rumors have already started in the hall. Someone has started to guess who will become the heir, and most likely, most of them do not even imagine who will actually become it. Unlike those who smile and show everyone that they are worthy of becoming an heir, this person does not attract unnecessary attention to himself because he wants to silently get what he wants and achieve justice. As expected, the Emperor couldn't help but notice him. The man even greeted him and asked how determined they were to fight. Although if the guy had said everything he thought about him, he would have definitely been excluded from the list. But this way, he was able to restrain himself. He understands that some words may be superfluous, so he said only what was required of him, namely, a greeting and gratitude for the invitation, nothing more. The guy is trying his best not to leave here right now. It would be disrespectful, even though he already has no respect for this man. He believes only in the fact that justice exists in this world, and it will rise someday, and preferably sooner rather than later. Suddenly, he notices someone wearing purple. The rule says that if a person sees someone wearing clothes of this color, you need to act exactly opposite to your feelings and control your emotions. If a feeling of disgust appears or you want to separate yourself from this person, you need to, on the contrary, come closer to him and greet him. And the guy also felt that this person had some special energy, but he didn't understand what it meant. He greeted this woman. She turned around, saw him, and was very surprised, as if she did not expect to see him here. To begin with, he asked her for business because he doesn't know what else to talk about with her. He just did what was necessary and hopes that she won't want to talk to him for long. And then he had a question. Could his aunt really bring him luck? His aunt married Count Roland, but since they have no children, she cannot be the one who has the right to inherit. That's why everyone here ignores her, doesn't treat her like a respected person, and in fact, he feels a little sorry for her. The woman hasn't done anything bad and doesn't deserve such treatment. At that moment, she saw that he was upset, so she asked what was the matter. But he still wasn't going to upset her, because he knew that she had enough of her own problems, especially since no one was interested in hearing about other people's problems. And most likely, she asked about it only out of politeness. She started remembering how she found out that his father's funeral had recently taken place. She expressed her condolences because she believed that he was a good man and should not have died so early. She took his hands very gently, supported him properly, and in fact, it was very timely. He hadn't been told anything like that for a long time. After that, he even wanted to talk to her longer, after all. She's a very nice person, and it's strange that she has so few friends. He admitted that if he had more time, he would be happy to come visit sometimes, but unfortunately, there are many factors that prevent this from happening. Also, if he had fewer problems, he would be happy to help her somehow in terms of making her life a little brighter. He can't imagine how she lives in such difficult conditions. She has no friends, and even at such events where it is customary to communicate politely with everyone, even with enemies, she feels too lonely, although at first glance it is not visible. And in the meantime, Duke Bentiake came up to them. He was very glad to see the guy. He also heard that he had a lot of unpleasant moments lately. He decided to hold him and wish him all the best. And he also decided to apologize for not expressing his condolences on the day of the funeral. He understands that an excuse is useless here, but he still wanted to say it. The guy understands everything perfectly. In fact, it doesn't matter to him what he was told. The main thing is that people miss the deceased and think well of him. The woman is already suggesting that they spend time together somehow. She is confident. They have something to discuss. Although from the outside, it is clear that she is simply clinging to any opportunity to communicate with people. There is nothing wrong with that. But if these people had a little more time, they would gladly agree. But unfortunately, they are forced to politely refuse. At some point, he noticed that he was no longer interested in communicating with them. It was nice to talk, but that was where his interest ended. After all, he initially came here on business and did not intend to stay until the end, because it is not necessary. The two were a little upset that he said goodbye so quickly, although they themselves said that they understood what a busy person he was. They looked at it as if everything that had just happened was nothing more than a mask that hid this real face. Leah noticed that the gentleman had already returned. She immediately began to ask how he was feeling, because she knows that he usually hates such events, especially catching the glances of people who are hiding under the mask. She wants to know how tired he is, to understand whether he is in the mood to talk to her or not. Although in reality, even if he is tired, she still won't leave him. Lately, she has been wanting to talk to someone so much that she will never leave him alone, whether he likes it or not. She has so much energy that it seems like she's about to ask for some other task. Although while they are here, such tasks cannot happen. If she asks him for something, he will probably order not to disturb him for the next half day, and maybe more. At some point, the guy even wondered why she suddenly became so active, although before she always wanted to be only in her room, and she almost never left there. Then he realized that if he talked to her for a long time like yesterday, he would not get enough sleep again, and he himself would regret it. He began to very carefully hint that today was a difficult day, even without her. Too many people saw him as a claimant to the inheritance, which meant that they could interfere with him or make him have some problems. Anything can be expected from those people, especially from two who are ready to demolish everything in their path. He is worried that someone might break into his home in the middle of the night or, for example, put a bag over his head and take him away into the forest. It is unlikely that anyone would dare to do this, but it will also be necessary to prepare for this. After all, the fight for the throne will be very fierce, and not only during the competitions. Meanwhile, the next day came. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Leia decided to walk with her kitten outside, while it was cool and not too hot. Then she came into the house to ask if any help was needed, and he didn't think that he would ever get tired of such questions. Leia already feels so comfortable around him that sometimes they forget that they shouldn't always approach him like that, distracting and wasting his time. From the outside, it looks like she is taking advantage of his attitude towards her. The guy can't talk rudely to her and tries to communicate with hints so that she doesn't get offended by him. Then she asked him if he wanted to have breakfast, and he was already confused about which question to answer first. He also started saying that if she had nothing to do, she could clean up after the horses or bathe them from a bucket. Leia is not very happy with this assignment, to which he said that if she is not happy with something, he suggests that she just leave him, do nothing, and not bother him for the rest of the day. Otherwise, he will give her so many tasks that she will regret that she started asking him such questions and even entered this office without permission. Although it is difficult to even call this room an office. The guy looks at her and thinks, why he can't talk to her normally. Something inside stops him and makes him communicate as politely as possible. And in the meantime, evening came, and surprisingly, after a hard day, she still had a lot of energy. She came to practice with pleasure, although she was told that today the lesson can be skipped. She found herself some kind of wooden sword and is playing with it with such pleasure as never before. It seems that she has discovered a new hobby and can no longer imagine her day without training, even if she only has a wooden, fake sword at her disposal. She thought that today she would be alone. After all, the teachers remained in the castle, but at some point, very unexpectedly, the one she least expected to see here came. This is the person who said that he was very tired and did not want to see anyone. But from the outside, it looks as if he was so bored without her that he even came to her, and perhaps even searched all over the territory. Leia even laughed a little. She imagines the picture of him sitting in his room. He was bored, and he thought about finding her. Naturally, she is very happy to see him. She doesn't mind training together if, of course, he came to her specifically for this. He started showing how to work with the ball correctly, and he was still silent, as if there was nothing strange in his behavior, and instead of him, there was an ordinary teacher. And in the meantime, he asked her to tell him the secret of how she manages to stay so cheerful at the end of the day, because she should be very tired out of habit and beg for some kind of day off. But everything is just the opposite. She has to beg someone to work with her. On the one hand, sometimes he really doesn't like that there has been so much of it lately, but on the other hand, such zeal for training can be used to his advantage. Her eyes sparkle. She literally can't sit still, because this is the ideal characteristic of a person who can only be a potential assistant. She had already asked him not to waste time. After all, I need speed, and they still wouldn't have time to train. He began to check what she was capable of, because some people really can have a lot of energy, but no skills. She began to show that she had learned to be resilient. She had her own techniques that she had come up with after the first lessons. She even has some traps to confuse her partner and buy time to deliver the finishing blow. Out of the blue, she started doing so well that he couldn't keep up with her movements. It was so professional, as if she had not just a couple of lessons, but years of training. At the most unexpected moment, she hit him right in the stomach, although she thought that he would have enough strength to defend himself or react and move aside in time. The girl apologized that it happened that way, and he said that when she hurts her opponent, she should never apologize because it is only his problem and no one else's. He really doesn't understand what's so special about her. This is another situation where he doubts that she is who she seems. He literally feels that she is not telling him something, and from the very first moment they met, she has too many skills for a person who spent all her time in slavery and theoretically could not do anything like that. And this was noticed not only by him, but also by his other assistants who watched her during lessons. In fact, she really enjoys seeing people expect less from her, and then she shows that she can do much more. It only gives more confidence, motivation, and desire to move on. To see these looks and surprise always. Previously, the guy didn't understand why his assistants finished classes much earlier than they had agreed. But now, He understands them perfectly. He himself has nothing more to teach her. She already knows everything and grasps everything on the fly. He already regretted that he hadn't talked to her when she suggested it, because perhaps at that very moment she could have told him something new about herself. While he was thinking about his own, he didn't notice how she turned around and started crying, so hard that he heard it from afar. He's never seen her like this. It looks very unusual, and he didn't do anything to make her so upset. He approached her very slowly, realizing that now he would have to be extremely careful because he didn't even know what was going on and what he had done wrong. Maybe he didn't praise her enough or didn't look at her the way she expected. In general, he has no idea. The gentleman apologized in advance if she cries because of him. He is ready to apologize to her as much as necessary, if only she would not be offended by him. And of course, if he is still to blame, he would like to know the reason. And he also thought that he was good at understanding people and that he was basically an attentive person. But as it turned out, this was not quite true. Usually he has to calm someone down very abruptly, especially girls. There are simply no such people in his circle, and there never were. The only thing he could think of and offer her was to go into the house so that no one would see her tears. But it seems that she doesn't care about it at all now. She just gave free rein to her emotions and wants to cry until the end. It's very hard for her to talk now, so she can't explain anything. And at this time, he decided to put the sword back in place. 10 minutes have passed, but nothing has changed. He is already starting to get a little irritated by the fact that he is absolutely powerless here. But he can't leave her either. It would be very ugly, especially if it turns out that she is crying because of him. Literally a couple of seconds later, Leia calmed down very abruptly. She apologized for making him see this and promised that it would not happen again. And yet, he finally asks her what's wrong and if he can help in any way, if he even has such an opportunity. He doesn't know. Maybe she just had some memories from the past. Maybe she just felt sad or was too tired. To which the girl replied that in fact, everything is much simpler. She just can't get enough of the life he gave her. She is so grateful to him that these were just tears of joy and those unspoken words that she never said to him. She values everything that she has so much that she wants to thank him every day and say that he is her savior and that she is ready to do everything for him. When she didn't even think that she would ever have the opportunity to eat delicious food as much as she wanted, sleep on a soft bed, in the warmth, talk about her problems and be supported in all that he gave her. Just a few days ago, she didn't even expect that she would have the opportunity to do what she loved, ride horses and fight with swords. She loves her life so much that she doesn't even know how to explain it in words. And even if she tries, she still won't be able to convey what's inside her. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, as usual, there is no peace. That girl decided to talk to the Clytus from the very morning and started right away with the matter. She told him straight out that she wanted to marry him, even allowed herself to say that he should do it. Supposedly, she was the best choice he could make. The girl understands that he did not expect such a conversation. The guy expected anything but this, and now does not know how to react to this correctly. He didn't even have time to understand what he thought about it and whether he needed to think about the relationship, especially under such circumstances. And she also started manipulating, as if only under such circumstances would the two of them have the opportunity to get the throne, because separately it would be very difficult and less likely. In short, her proposal sounds like this. He takes her as his wife, helps her become emperor, and then she will give this throne to him if it's the end. He needs it. Clyd had already realized the situation a little and decided to ask why she was offering it to him and not to someone else. She quickly answered him that if she falls behind in this succession race, her life will be like fear, and she wants to live long and happily, so she wants to do everything in her power. And she also started hinting that if he refused and she found someone else, then the guy would deeply regret it and no one would give him another chance. Therefore, since she has given him such an opportunity, she advises him to take advantage of it. Otherwise, someone else will take the place of the emperor in the future. And the girl also asked him if he didn't think that their interests coincided perfectly and that they could help each other perfectly. And she also thinks that he is very lucky that there is such a person who will take on most of the work and lead him to success. He won't even have to do anything himself. The only thing that is required is to become her husband, and as quickly as possible, even today. That would be even better. It already seems to him that there must definitely be some kind of catch in this. It can't be that a person wanted to get the throne while promising to give it to someone else. He thinks that she is definitely up to something. It all sounds too wonderful, like some kind of fairy tale. The first thought that came to his mind was that he was not a child to believe in such a thing. After all, he needed some kind of insurance. You never know what she had in mind. Even for her, these conditions are as advantageous as for him. If she doesn't tell him right now what the catch is, he won't even continue talking to her. She answered without hesitation that everything was very simple, even much simpler than he thought. The only thing that interested her was that she was part of the Imperial family, and if he was so interested in why it would be beneficial for her that he would later become emperor, the whole point is that whether she or he would be the emperor, it doesn't matter. It will provide her with security and a happy life, and if she alone was the empress and she didn't have a fiancé, there would be those who would want to remove her, and there would be many of them. After these words, he already understands her much better. This is basically logical. There is only one thing: he is confused by how they will be in marriage if people can immediately understand that there are no feelings between them and never were. It may be clear to them that they did it only for the throne, to which the girl laughed and replied that it didn't matter anymore. If they take the throne, then the opinion of the people will fade into the background, and then they won't care what anyone thinks about them. It will not matter to them how they are treated, how many enemies they have, how many well-wishers or those. They will simply live peacefully and happily, in wealth and in safety. He already tells her that it's all very tempting. He likes this plan, but he's also confused by the fact that she might want to break up with him later, find herself someone else and leave the Clid penniless. She answered him that here too, everything is very simple. He just has to listen to his heart and intuition. Even if she tells him the truth, she still won't be able to convince him that it's true. He has to have his own opinion and premonition. And in the meantime, Leia, as usual, went out for a walk. This is the best way to spend time for her. There can be nothing better. She is so impressed by every sound, every rustle of leaves, that a smile literally never leaves her face. And today there is such a beautiful sunset that she could admire it forever. It's just a pity that it's impossible. Nox started to run away from her. He noticed something and started to meow so loudly, as if he wanted to warn about something. She picked off a small berry and began to look closely, but was afraid that it might turn out to be something poisonous, because as far as she knows, some plants have fruits that you can't try. Otherwise, you can get poisoned. The berry seemed so attractive that she decided to take a risk and try it. Maybe she would like it and take some with her to make some pie. She had just tried one and didn't even have time to understand whether it was tasty or not, when some man came up to her and started asking what she was doing there, as if this territory was his property. She started asking him who he was and what the problem was that she stopped to eat berries. He told her that he was not sure how edible these berries were, so he advised her not to be so frivolous in trying everything she saw in her way. Leia thanked him for the advice, but still, he could have said it much more softly, and not in such a tone as if she owed him something and did something wrong. Then she began to notice that he wasn't going anywhere. It was as if he needed something from her. But really, it was unlikely that he would approach a girl just like that. As soon as he said that they could have a good time together, she understood everything, and it's very good that she was able to react in times. He couldn't even touch her. She had already hit him in the stomach and started running away. She was so stressed that she didn't even notice how it happened. It's a pity that she didn't really notice his face. Although if she manages to clean it up, it doesn't really matter. Then she thought that such people should be punished. She immediately turned around, found a huge stick and started hitting him very hard, everywhere she could reach. He screamed so loudly and began to beg her not to do it, as if he was not guilty of anything, and she was still not hitting him with all her strength as best she could.